The story begins in the temple on the mountain. A woman is praying to the Lord. She is cold and looks sick. She says there was a time when she hated the Lord. But now she asks for another chance. She was so naive. If Lord gives her another chance, she won't make the same stupid mistake again. She hates it. And she doesn't want to die that way. How noisy. Apparently, she fell asleep after she lost consciousness. She got a good night's sleep and she feels much more awake. What? Such clean skin, bouncy and long hair. So she's back. But that's not what she wanted. She doesn't want to live that life again. Bianca de Arno, Countess Arno of Savoyang, Madame Bianca, was rumored, within the county and nation, to be an evil wife. Her husband, Count Zachary de Arno, was not only a loyal vassal of His Majesty the King of Savoyang, but also the right-hand man of the first prince, His Highness Gautier. While the Count risked his life on the battlefield, he had new dresses made every day for Madame Bianca, and bought her lots of jewelry. The first day after her return, a frightened Bianca didn't get out from under the blanket. On the second day, she trashed almost everything in her room. All the precious things she used to hold so dear. On the third day she made a terrible noise, screaming like a mad woman. The maid says it's been days since she stopped eating and calls them to clean the room. Another says it's been 4 days, maybe they should go inside. Maybe something happened. The other says it's even better. Everyone in the palace knows that Madame Bianca has brought much suffering to the Count. Their lands are small and not rich. But after Count Zachary became the new lord, the land started to steady. Zachary was a master who was frugal and committed. He made a lot of money in the war. All the subjects were convinced that he would make their land very rich. But the evil wife, who lived in luxury, was used to her husband giving her money without restraint. If only she weren't here. Moreover, it had been 9 years since they had married. But because the madam had harassed the Count, there were rumors that they never shared the same bed. The battlefield was a place where one didn't know what would happen. Some might have lost their heads in a fair sword fight with the enemy, while the other times, through a wicked and dirty plot, one would be able to death. One of the maids is very worried about what will happen to them, if the Count dies. After all, there are still no heirs. What is Madame thinking? Bianca examines the lace. She remembers that lace became popular when she was 30. In the convent she learned how to weave it. So it is definitely not a dream. The maids are afraid that she might have heard everything. Vincent, butler of Arno. Bianca asks Vinky how old she is. He says his name is Vincent. And she turned 18 this year. Bianca asks where the Count is now. Vincent answers that the Count left for the front lines a couple of months ago. He knew that the Count is indifferent to her. But how could she not know that he was away because of the war? Bianca asks when he will return. Vincent says that last time he received word, where the Count said he would be back in the winter. Well, in winter. She asks that Vinky do one thing for her. She hates being cold, so he prepare for her a fox felt. From a silver fox. He will do whatever she says. Vincent recalls the Count's words. If me wife wants it, prepare everything that she wants. She was raised more preciously than anyone else. She left everything there in the same moment she married at him. So he should reward her. Whatever she wants, Vincent will do it in the best way possible. Count probably said that, without knowing how lavishly she lives. If marriage is a business, then the marriage of Count Arnos is one that has yet to have any real benefit. A completely ruined business. Bianca praises Vinky for always giving her the best. Vincent asks to learn his name instead of praise. By the way, she also asked when the Count was coming back. The news came this morning. He has arrived in the county. An immature, frivolous, and an evil wife who has no interest in her husband. Bianca de Arno. The day she will be called Saint Bianca of Arno is a story that is to come. She came back to life, as she promised to Lord. She will properly live her second life this time, and there's no way she'll make the same stupid mistake again. One of the knights asks how the Count is feeling. After all, he hasn't been in the country for so long. The Count says he sees his wife. She is screaming at the sky. She looks healthy. Severing country. Arno Castle. The black wolf flag is at the front. The Count has returned. Count Zachary de Arno, the Berserker Count, has returned. The nickname Berserker was given to the Count because his silver hair was always covered in the blood of his enemies. He was like a well-honed blade. His silver hair embodied fear itself. Vincent greets the Count. The banquet hall has already prepared a feast for them. Zachary thanks his warriors for the journey. They can eat and drink as much as they like. The servants ask the knights how the expedition went. One of the knights says it was amazing. He is a commander of the Arno army Sauveur. They miss the chance to witness his exploding coolness. Arno Army Commander Gaspar. And Arno Army Commander Robert. Robert is not thrilled with Sauveur's enthusiasm. He asks him to be quiet. But Sauveur reminds Robert that he is only alive because of him. Sauveur broke the spear flying at Robert. If only Robert had known what he would owe him. Sauveur says he will brag about it to Robert's wife, his son, and even his grandchildren. Everyone greets the Count's wife. Bianca indifferently asks where the Count is now. Sauveur says that the Count has already gone up to his room. He likes to bathe first before eating. She understood. Everyone is afraid of her. Sauveur notices that she has grown a lot while they were gone. Not long ago she was very small. He noticed the white fox's fur. As she grows and her desires get bigger. Robert asks Sauveur to calm down. The decisions of the Count don't concern them. Sauveur asks Robert to watch his face, not his. All the colors of contempt are written on his face. Gaspar wonders only one thing, why she is looking for the Count. Since it was the first time that she came out to meet the Count, Bianca remembers how many years she has known her husband. She wanted to have an important discussion with the Count. So without hesitation she went to the Count's room. Apparently he's talking to someone. The Count says he has decided to reorganize the estate. The Count notices his wife. She says that the door was open, and she wasn't trying to sneak a look. Zachary asks why she was looking for him. As always, she can ask Vincent for anything she needs. She doesn't understand why in order to see him. She must have a case for him. She just came to see him. Because she is his wife. Bianca finds him just as cold and scary. Why doesn't he say anything? He must be tired and busy. Perhaps she'd better go see him tomorrow. But she can't. She resolved to not repeat the past's mistakes. If she don't take even a single step forward again. Bianca asks Venky to leave the room. She needs to talk to the Count. What it means she needs to talk to the Count. What she wants to talk about. Zachary didn't expect that one day she would want to talk to him. So what does she want to tell him? She wants to propose. They have been married for 9 years. She will be 19 after this winter. So she wants to do all of a wife's duties. The Count doesn't understand what duties. He asks for an explanation. An heir. She says she is ready to give birth to an heir. She wants to have a baby with him. In those days the life of a noble lady was defined by marriage. Before getting married the father or male sibling would take care of the lady. And after the wedding the husband and his family were to be responsible for her safety. In those days the life of a noble lady, who had no father, no siblings, no husband's family, and who couldn't even see her own successor, would be miserable. That's why she wants to have a child with him. Zachary tells her honestly that he's confused. He asks if she knows what she needs to do to have a baby. He's treating her like a child. How can she not know? Even though her body is 18, her mind lives even longer than his. Furthermore, in her past life, she have passed 20 years of age and shared a room with him. Bianca says she knows enough through the conversations of the maids, and her job is to give birth to the next Count of Arno. So of course, she must know. Zachary clarifies whether she can do it. With him, the things that she know. Can she have a child? She's scared. Zachary says she is still afraid of him. He suggests that she go back to her room and rest. And he needs to rest too. He's ready to talk later. But, if she doesn't have a baby, she will have to live that kind of life again. No, she won't let that happen. She grabs the Count's hand and asks how much he got for their wedding. 400 calves, 900 pigs, 100 silverwares, 300 sheets of silks, 2 treasures and a part of territories. It was Arno's 2 years of budget. A dowry is the money that the bride brings to the groom's house when she marries. It's like a legacy that the wife's parents give in advance to support the bride. It wasn't easy to remember, since it was a huge amount of money. It's strange that he remembers the amount so accurately. When the groom kicked the bride out and got a new marriage, he have to return the bride back with the dowry. Bianca thinks that his have a mistress. She tells the Count not to worry, she is not going to break up. He can comfortably have a relationship with her. She won't disturb their relationship. Bianca doesn't understand why he has that look on his face. Any man would be embarrassed if his wife started discussing his mistress. Zachary doesn't know who told her this crap. They will talk about the heir when the time comes. This discussion is useless now. Bianca protests. How could he say useless? Zachary calls Vincent. He knows Vincent is right in front of the door. He orders to escort the madam to her room. Bianca screams for the Count to listen to her. It's important to her. The Count reflects on the past. Nanny of Blanchfort was the only person who Bianca opened her heart. After the death of the nanny due to epidemic disease, she completely lost her appetite, and has been crying all day and night. She asks him to stay away from her. If he have come back from the battlefield, he should have looked for her after took off his armor. And he reeks of blood. He recalls that when he returned from the battlefield, she avoided him, saying he smelled blood. But today she touched he, as if nothing had happened. He haven't washed yet, so he smelled like something she didn't like. What could have changed during his absence? Her first shared the bed with the Count when she was 20. After that, they only slept together when he went off to war. In the end, they never had any successors. When she was 25, the Count went off to war again, and died on the battlefield. Until then, she must give birth to a child as soon as possible, even if she has to make the first move. Vincent wants escort madam to her room. Bianca yells at him not to follow her. She can go by herself. Vincent remembers for sure that she was wearing a fox belt. Bianca knows that in order to have a child she must sleep with the Count. But the Count does not seem to be in the mood for that. Even if she comes to him, he will just send her back. Bianca thinks he is taller and scarier than she remembered. Has he always been so muscular? Although, she only saw his body in the dark, so she didn't know that. She is sure that with a body like this, she will not be able to seduce him. The Count had never shown her any softness. He was always stiff. Bianca thinks that if she were a man, she wouldn't be impressed with her body either. She wonders what she is. The Count's favorite. Is she the daughter of a serf, or a nobleman? He must love her very much. Besides, he remembers all the dowry so exactly. Surely, he wants her and her dowry back in Blanchfort. Then his beloved will become the new Countess of Arno. In fact, Bianca doesn't really care who exactly the Count loves. But to have a child with a man who loves someone else. Just the thought makes her disgusted. The Count says she has left her new skin in his room. He notes that it looks good on her. Zachary thanks her for today. Bianca feels warm. But wait. What exactly did he thank her for? Bianca doesn't know what happened. He probably wanted to reproach her for buying expensive things. This has happened in the past. The nanny asks the Count if this is a squirrel pelt. She cries out that even a mink skin will not be enough for her miss. Nanny reminds the Count that Miss freezes very easily. At Blanchfort she wore only the finest skins. Nanny notes that although he is in Count by title, he is very far from the Count of Blanchfort. She believes that her master made a mistake in marrying Miss off to the Viscount's second son. Miss could have become a duchess instead of a countess. Zachary reminds them that if they need anything else, ask Vincent. Bianca's nanny never hid her grievances against the Count. She became known as someone who could cause a scandal right in front of the Count. Over time, the Count won many victories in wars. He created a rich country capable of satisfying Madame's every extravagant wish. Even if the Count's words about the fox fur were only a mockery. Bianca had never heard him sarcastic or grateful before. Bianca was pleased with herself. He must have thanked her for the first time she met him after the war. No matter what happened, the Count always acted indifferent, one might even say businesslike. Today was the first time Zachary had shown feelings for her. Bianca thinks that if she speaks to him more often, his thoughts about an heir might change. And then she'll pounce on him. So he shouldn't get too relaxed. The next day, Arno's castle became very noisy. For something had happened that had never happened before. A boy hears the adults, who talking about Madame having met the Count. Someone say that she even went down to meet him herself, and then she went to his room. A woman can't believe it's definitely their Madame. The man says that his wife was cleaning outside the Count's room, and saw everything. Girls chatter about Madame leaving her fox fur in the Count's room. The Count gave her the fur bag and even put it around her shoulders. The other girl wonders what happened in the room. The first girl is sure that nothing happened. Because Butler was in front of the Count's door. One says this is the first time Madame has done such a thing, and the Count doesn't look like himself either. Everyone wonders what happened between them. One of the maids likes what is going on. Another says that Madame is about to become an adult. So she won't be surprised if she has a child soon. But even if that doesn't happen, they are glad that their relationship has become better. Surely Madame has changed her mind. The maid, who looks like the first enemy of this story, doesn't understand what would change if Madame changed her mind. After all, it is the Count who must accept this gloomy woman. The first maid asks Auntie not to say such things, in case someone hears. Auntie doesn't care, for there is no one who thinks otherwise. Madame is a gloomy woman who does only what she wants. She thinks that servants and knights are just idiots, if they think this woman can change. Auntie is sure she can warm the Count's bed better than this woman. The first maid asks Auntie to be careful what she says. Her words are rude to the Count and Madame. But Auntie believes that the truth is the truth. She is sure that Madame's skin is as cold as she is. Like a snake or a frog. She says that Madame is like a reptile, skinny and unattractive. Bianca weaves lace. Someone asks why she is sitting here alone. A woman says that the Countess herself asked Zachary to receive her. Now she will live here with her child. What? Bianca doesn't understand what is going on. It must be the Count's mistress. The woman promises that she will take care of the heir. She advises Bianca to do what she always does. Lock herself in room and stay inside. Zachary explains that they must take care of the heir. So if she needs anything, she can ask Vincent as always. But what Bianca needs, only the Count can give her. It was only a dream. Bianca doesn't understand why the dream was so realistic. Did the fact that the Count turned her out of the door traumatize her so much? Bianca finds the Count rather emotionless. But he can still have a mistress. She is sure that if she crosses paths with him more often, there will certainly be an opportunity to talk about the heir. Still, she is ashamed to ask for a child. But what else is left? She doesn't know any other options. Bianca hears the maids talking. After all, it is the Count who must accept this gloomy woman. Auntie says that Madame is a gloomy woman who does only what she wants. Auntie is sure she can warm the Count's bed better than this woman. Woman who besmirches the reputation of the family. Bianca heard similar words more than once while she was begging. But now she would not forgive for such a thing. Bianca asks what the maid just said about her. That she was like a reptile, skinny and unattractive. If she heard that her madam is cold as a snake, didn't she know that she also spat venom? Bianca concludes that she didn't know, since she decided to open her mouth. Bianca demands that another maid bring her a whip. She says the maid is out of luck. She is in the worst mood today. Bianca promises she will not escape punishment. The maid brings the whip. Bianca thinks she would forgive her if she just laughed at her. But how dare maid compare herself to her? Bianca orders her to stretch out her arms. This is for comparing herself to her. This is for listening to gossip about her madam. This is for not knowing how to keep your mouth shut. This is for insulting and slandering your madam. Man asks someone to call butler. And that's for wanting to sleep with your lord. The knight asks what she is doing now. Bianca asks who he is anyway. Everyone knew the three commanders of Zachary de Arno. Of the three, only Robert has served the Count faithfully, even before Lady Bianca showed up. Robert of course knew that she didn't care for the Count. But how could the Countess not even know his name? The knight says his name is Robert. Bianca seems to know him. He is sort of one of the commanders. She says she disciplines the maid, so he has to let go of her hand. Robert points out that she is overdoing it. Even though she is a countess, he will not silently watch the beating. Auntie doesn't understand how this happened. She was simply telling the truth. Bianca admits that she is extravagant and bad-tempered. But she can't leave direct insults unpunished. The maid shouldn't said that she was a horrible and bad wife. And that she could easily sleep with her husband. Someone asks what's going on here. Count Zachary de Arno. Bianca is angry. Why does he show here now? Auntie thinks she is saved. The Count will surely help her. Count Zachary was indeed a generous ruler. He even released the thief who had stolen the sack of grain. Usually they cut off a hand for such thing. Bianca notices the way the maid looks at the Count. So that who the Count is hiding from her. Zachary notices that something is wrong with his wife's hand. He asks Bianca if her hand is all right. Bianca doesn't know what he is talking about. The Count asks Vincent to call a doctor for his wife. Bianca says she doesn't need a doctor. Let him take care of the face the girl, who Count loves so much. After all, she is his mistress. Bianca says she punished her just out of a whim. And she doesn't think she has gone far, but she will back off for today. After all, she is the one who can replace her in his bed. Vincent asks Madame to get treatment. Bianca screams that she doesn't need it. She doesn't want everyone to know that she beats up her servants. Let him treat this girl's face better. Zachary asks the maid what happened. Auntie says that she was just diligently scrubbing the floor. The Count asks what happened next. If she was only cleaning. Why did his wife decide that she is his mistress? Zachary asks Vincent to do everything he can, to keep the rumors from spreading. Vincent says that Auntie can go home. Even he almost gets kicked out for eavesdropping. Servants are only good if they can keep their mouths shut, and since she doesn't have that quality, Vincent concludes that she has no place in this castle. Auntie begs Butler to listen to her. Vincent asks what Commander Robert is doing here. Robert says he stopped the Countess when he saw her beating the maid. However, now he considers that the reasons for her anger were justified. In any case, Robert is surprised that she decided to punish the maid in person. This is strange behavior for her. Butler concludes that Madame acted like a hostess today. He doesn't know why, but he is sure that Madame has changed her attitude toward Arno. Bianca's arm really hurts. Her hand is so swollen. She is relieved to think that the maid had it even worse. The Count must be comforting that girl right now. He kisses her swollen hand, saying that one day he will throw Bianca and make her a countess. Unpleasant thoughts overtake her. Bianca has opened her heart only to the nanny of Blanchfort. After her death, Bianca doesn't even have a personal maid. She had no one to rely on Arno. Suddenly we find out that the narrator of the story is this maid. Okay, that's interesting, I'll tell the story on her behalf. I was just a simple maid who cleaned the floors outside Madame's room. I could only watch from afar, as she endured the pain and loneliness alone. But Bianca asks who's there. I tell Madame that I have come to treat her wounds with a healing potion. We will not tell her that it is only folk therapy. If she doesn't want to call a doctor, I want to do at least that for her. I ask that she trust me just once. I promise her that after the poultice, I will leave quickly. Bianca kind of trusted me. If Madame is in pain, I will be gentle. I ask her to hold out a little longer. Bianca feels warm. Nanny praises Madame for not crying in front of the servants. She is sure that everyone wanted to help her. But since she is a noble, they could not casually touch her. Nanny promises that one day someone will appear, who understands her heart. When that happens, the nanny asks her to hold his hand. Bianca asks what my name is. I say my name is Yvonne. Bianca says she feels better. She asks me to give her a compress tomorrow. I could feel Madame's fear of refusal, but she asks me to help her anyway. I promise her that I will come to her tomorrow. I'm happy that I can do something to help Madame. Bianca thinks what she should do now. The Count doesn't want children from her, for he loves someone else. Without an heir, her position in Arno is shaky. What she must do to survive. I shout that it is so beautiful. I apologize to Madame. But this fabric is so beautiful that I couldn't help myself. It's like the wings of a goddess. Bianca remembered that she had this. Even without count, heir, father, or brother, she has a weapon, which will become her strength. 10 years ago. Lihos, the capital of Severin. Someone asks the knight to wait for a while. The unknown person says that the knight has long legs, so he walks fast. He asks if the knight is the son of Viscount Widgew. Zachary specifies that the title passed to his brother 3 years ago. He is now the ruler of Arno. The man takes a breath and concludes that he is still the son of Viscount Widgew. The man introduces himself as Gustave de Blanchfort. He is pleased to meet Baron Zachary de Arno. Count Blanchfort, the right hand of Prince Gauthier, and a loyal follower of Severin. Zachary apologizes for his rudeness and ignorance. Gustave says all is well. He asks Zachary to give him some time. After all, he has wanted to talk to him for a long time. Gustava says that this tea is made from flowers that grow in the emperor's garden. He is glad he can spend time with such a brave knight. I don't trust such beautiful tea anymore. Zachary asks what he wants to tell him. Gustava confesses that until now, he has been loyal to the emperor with all his heart. He was sure that Prince Gauthier would be the next successor. Gustava was sure that the prince would be the new emperor. Even though there are forces supporting the second Prince Jacob in becoming emperor. It is a small group of people, although this doesn't reassure him. Gustava offers Zachary to be the sword of the first prince. Zachary is grateful for the offer, but he only recently received the title of Baron. Can a man without reputation become the sword of Prince Gauthier? Gustava thinks that Zachary is very humble. After all, he is the Black Wolf of Severing. In his 16 years he has already been on the battlefield and received the title of Baron. Blanchfort has always been and will remain in the future on the side of the first prince. Gustava wants him and no one else, become the emperor's sword for life. He wants to share the honor of serving Prince Gauthier with Zachary. A bright future for Severing awaits him. Zachary says that he can't refuse to serve whoever becomes emperor in the future. So he asks Gustava to take care of him. Gustava also asks to be kind to him. One more thing remains, he has an offer for Zachary. Gustava asks how he thinks about getting married. Zachary doesn't really want to marry to him. Gustava is glad that Zachary is so unbiased, but he already has a wife, so it's awkward. Gustava has a lovely unmarried daughter. If he marries his daughter, they will become not just mates, but members of the Blanchfort family. Then Gustava will support him. It will be a worthy marriage for him. Gustava hopes that Zachary will not miss such a good opportunity. Worthy marriage. It was hard to refuse Count Blanchfort. Especially one who was kicked out of his family empty-handed. This marriage can gain him fame and fortune. So this marriage could be considered a good business deal. And of course the dowry. 400 calves, 900 pigs, 100 silver bowls, 300 pieces of silk, a portion of the estate. It would be a 2-year budget for Arno. Vincent is concerned that a wife with such a dowry would be difficult to treat properly. Zachary concludes that they will all have to try harder. He asks Vincent to send a letter to those who asked for reinforcements last month. And to find out how much they will pay if Arno sends them troops. If look at this marriage as a business. Zachary sold himself to Count Blanchfort as a war horse. As for the received wife, Bianca, her face made the Count ponder on many things. The Count had always thought that his wife was taken care of in the best way possible. But her gaze and swollen hands said otherwise. That same night, Zachary ordered that the 3 commanders be summoned. Robert doesn't understand the urgency. Gaspar thinks that perhaps Aragon has invaded again. Xavier thinks it's too early to return to the battlefield, he just returned yesterday. They have all come to the Lord. Zachary says they are pretty fast. Robert asks what happened. Is it possible that Aragon has invaded again and they must gather? Zachary says that this is a more important matter. Robert doesn't understand what could be more important than war. Gaspar wonders what it could be. Xavier is surprised when Count starts wearing glasses. Although they do suit him very well, and Vincent looks good in a monocle. The Count wants them to escort his wife. Of course not all of them, one of them. The commanders are shocked. Xavier is outraged at how this can be more important than military service. Why escort the Countess who doesn't leave her room? Robert concludes that it is because of today's incident. Perhaps the Count is afraid it might happen again. Xavier suggests that the Count wants them to keep the witnesses quiet, or they should pay the money for the damage. Robert asks Xavier to finally shut up. Zachary heard that Bianca spends most of her time in her room. This happened as soon as she left the room. He wants someone he trusts to make sure his wife doesn't get hurt. After all, Bianca de Arno. Precious person to him. The next sunny morning at Castle Arno. As a good maid, I prepared a healing potion for my madam. I remind you that the narrator of the story is the maid Yvonne. I'm telling the story on her behalf. When I walked into madam's room, the sun was shining on Bianca's face, but in spite of that, she was still asleep. She must have felt bad after yesterday's incident, so I closed the curtains to let her sleep a little longer. The wounds on Bianca's hand were still in bad shape. In my opinion, madam could call a doctor, then she would feel better soon. In any case, I'll do everything I can to help her. In the story, I have a younger sister her age. Her name is Lucy. She married a carpenter, and I don't see her much after that. Every time I think of a lonely madam in the cold castle walls, I remember my sister. Bianca asks if it's me. I'm sorry for waking her up. Bianca says it's no problem, she's glad she didn't sleep all day. Anyway, she asks me to help her get dressed. Bianca has a lot of work to do today. After a while we went to Vincent's butler's room. On the way I noticed that madam is cold walking around the castle in one dress. So, I asked permission to go to her room to get her fox fur. When I left, Bianca allowed herself to smile. She thinks I'm a kind and smart girl. Bianca wonders, if we had known each other in her past life, could anything has changed? But she doesn't want to waste time regretting the past. Now she needs to change her new life. Butler Vincent was in his office as usual, taking care of Arno's land affairs. Bianca came to him with an unexpected request. She believes that he has been taking good care of Arno's household all this time. But she's 18 years old now, old enough to take care of the castle. Bianca asks Vincent to teach her how to take care of Arno's castle. Vincent was touched by her determination, but even more he was touched that she pronounced his name correctly. He thinks something has changed in their madam. After buying a white fox coat, she no longer buys anything expensive. Yesterday's incident convinced him that madam wanted to become a real countess. Vincent is still not sure that their capricious madam could mature so suddenly, but he asks Bianca to trust him, he will teach her everything. Vincent invites madam to explore the territory, the best way to learn by practice. Bianca knows from her previous life that having a child with the count will not be easy. She wants to do things she didn't do in her previous life. If she helps Arno to become stronger, the count will soon realize that she is no longer that capricious kid, but a political partner. When they left the castle, Vincent remembered the count's instruction. From this day on, Madame Bianca will have an escort. Someone of these 3 knights will accompany her from now on. Vincent will introduce them to her. Sir Robert, whom Bianca should have seen yesterday. Sir Gaspar is a rather reserved person. And Sir Sauveur is the most willful of the 3. Vincent is so excited to see which of them Madame will choose. Bianca doesn't like such unexpected choices. She knows it's her husband's 3 loyal commanders. Why people like them should escort her. So, Bianca tells Vincent that he'll be enough of an escort. She wants to avoid the fuss of the crowd. Vincent says that is impossible, it's the Lord's order. Bianca planned to become the Count's political partner. But this is still a long way off, since he won't even let her choose her own escort. Bianca believes the real reason for the escort is to monitor her actions. Whatever she does, the Count will know about everything. In that case, how could she think that they were on equal footing as a couple at Castle Arno? Anyway, it's early to lose heart, she only needs to choose the escort. So, Robert, this man disobeyed her yesterday, and even tried to stop her. If she chooses him, he's sure to be a nag. Gaspar, a really big man. He won't make idle talk, but his constant silence will depress Madame. And Sauveur. Bianca remembers that he is a free man, maybe she should choose him. Definitely not, he looks too stupid. Bianca can't make up her mind, this choice is too burdensome. How can she choose one of them, if she doesn't like each of them? Anyway, time to make a decision. Someone put a fur coat on Bianca's shoulders. She wonders who it could be. What if it's the Count himself? But, it was only me. I didn't find Madame in the butler's room, so I was a little late. Bianca praised me for my hard work. Xavier wondered who this cute maid was. In his opinion, the Countess is friendly with her. Robert is surprised that the Countess doesn't know his name, but knows the maid's name. The boys admire my cuteness. Anyway, Bianca was grateful that I took away the tension of the situation. However, she is pissed off that none of the knights want to volunteer. The knight who first volunteered to escort her surprised everyone. Gaspar wants to escort the Countess. Bianca thinks that perhaps Gaspar is the best option. He's as big as her husband, and she can't understand what he's thinking either. Robert and Xavier still can't believe that Gaspar volunteered. Bianca tells Vincent that she agrees to Gaspar. Vincent is satisfied with this decision. He loudly announces that Gaspar will escort Madame. Bianca asks Vincent not to waste any more time. They have a lot to do today. When Bianca was about to go, someone stops her. It was the Count, who surprised everyone with his appearance. Zachary came closer to his wife, and stood beside her. Bianca irritatedly asked why he was looking at her like that. Zachary says he wants to touch her face. Everyone is in shock, it's so cute. While Bianca doesn't understand what's going on, Zachary tells her that she has a fever. After Bianca is sure of it, I confirm that she has a fever. Robert noticed that the Count's office has a great view of this area. So he concludes that the Count was watching them. At this time Zachary gave Bianca his jacket. He thinks it would be better for her to go back to her room for the day. Zachary himself escorts his wife to her room, so the others can go about their work. After these words the Count went with Bianca to the castle. Vincent and I were so glad that the Count escorted his wife, while the knights couldn't understand what was going on. As the pair walked down the castle hallway, Bianca thought that the Count definitely had something to say to her. She assumed it might be related to yesterday's incident. Most likely the Count wanted her to apologize to that girl. Bianca doesn't like that while she was alone in her room, the Count was having fun with his lover. She asks the Count on what excuse he would have accompanied her, if she didn't have a fever. Bianca won't apologize to the maid, for she too has a pride. She doesn't care if he loves that girl, but she is still the Countess here. Zachary says she has nothing to worry about, he threw the maid away from the castle. Bianca finds it strange, why he did that. If he wanted to throw suspicion off himself, it wasn't the best option. Zachary calmly says he doesn't have any lover. Bianca says that she may be a child in his eyes, but she is not fooled by his words. Suddenly Zachary ruffles Bianca's bangs. He doesn't know what kind of person she sees him as. But he assures her that he is not so shameless, as to hide a lover from her. Perhaps the reason was Bianca's fever, but her heart beat faster when the Count came so close to her. Zachary gave off a scent that Bianca already knew from her past life. After the Count removed his hand, Bianca's obsession subsided. She thought she should stop being crazy. So, Bianca can believe that the maid wasn't his lover, but still doesn't believe that he doesn't have any. Zachary doesn't understand why she's so stubborn. Bianca would believe him if they were planning a child. She asks if he knows what rumors people are spreading, that she still hasn't given birth to an heir. Zachary doesn't care what people say, he doesn't think it's time for an heir. Bianca then doesn't understand why she needs an escort since he doesn't want an heir from her. Zachary explains that after yesterday's incident, he is worried about letting her go alone. Bianca lets him know that she is not alone, now she has a beautiful maid. Zachary asks who will protect her better, a maid, or a well-trained knight. I asked them not to fight over me. I can escort Madame with the knight. Bianca thinks it's the Count who's too stubborn, not her. She angrily asks what can happen to her, when she is always in his castle. Zachary reminds her that it's not his castle. Arno lands belong to the two of them. Bianca has never heard such words from the Count in her previous life. Something has definitely changed, but she can't figure out what. Zachary asks Bianca not to argue in the cold hallway, she needs to rest in her room. Whatever the case, Bianca thinks the Count has ruined her plans for the day. She wonders what the Count wanted to talk to her about originally. Lady Arno spent the next few days in her room with a fever. She has many questions that she can't find answers to. On those cold nights, Bianca fell asleep thinking about where it all began. Count Arno called his commanders to discuss who would escort his wife. Since Gaspar would be busy, the other commanders would divide his duties among themselves. They happily agrees. Vincent serves the knights mulled wine to keep them warm. Today Madame pronounced his name correctly, and asked him to teach her how to manage the affairs of the castle. Zachary had heard that his wife rarely left her room before. Vincent says she did, but suddenly she started going out more often, hurt herself over the incident with the maid, and even wanted to study. He asks the Count what he talked to Madame about. Robert and Gaspar were also curious, while Xavier was thinking that nothing could be better than mulled wine in the cold winter. Zachary says that Bianca thought he had another woman. He thought she was worried that he would send her back to Blanchfort. Robert seems to understand why the Countess was so angry with that maid. Zachary asks if she sent letters to Blanchfort. Vincent says no, Madame has neither sent, nor received any letters. Zachary didn't expect this from Count Blanchfort. It's not hard to write a letter to your daughter. Though, remembering how Count Blanchfort reacted to the death of Bianca's maid 5 years ago, he is not surprised now. Zachary had told him that Bianca was in a weak state after the death of that woman. Count Blanchfort only offered him condolences about the epidemic that could paralyze Arno. He will tell the first prince and see to it that no epidemic occurs. Zachary was then surprised that the Count did not care about Bianca. In any case, he asks Vincent to teach Bianca anything she wants to learn. He also wants to know about everything his wife is interested in. Zachary wants her to familiarize with everything until spring, then he will take her to the capital. Robert choked on his drink. He and Xavier didn't expect them to do all the work for Gaspar even in the spring. Xavier had already imagined how Gaspar would get to the capital La Hose with the Countess. The little carriage rides in Xavier's imagination. Countess Arno is tired of driving so long and wants to have a nice tea, so they should stop immediately. Gaspar explains to her that they are in a forest, and it's dangerous to camp here. The Countess doesn't care, it's not her problem. Xavier thinks that Gaspar will die before reaching the capital. He doesn't understand why the Count should take her with him. Madame will buy up all the expensive things in the capital, Xavier even envies her. Xavier knows that Madame married at a young age. She's 18 now, but she's never had an heir. He wonders if they both plan to have children at all. Xavier had an epiphany. He asks the Count about his hunch. The Count is taking Madame to the capital, because they want to have an heir. Look at Vincent, he's so confused that his mustache flew up. Zachary continued to sit perfectly still. But then he remembered how Bianca had told him she wanted a baby, and he completely blushed. Zachary said it had nothing to do with that, and he didn't want to bring the topic up. Xavier didn't expect the Count to get so angry that he blushed. He should not bring it up again. Robert concludes that this is what the Count wanted to say to Madame in the morning. Zachary hasn't told her about the trip yet. He doesn't see the point, until they start packing for the trip. The knights are completely puzzled as to why the Count thought Madame would want to go with him. What an unshakable confidence he has. Soon the Countess was cured, and began to learn to housekeeping. At first light, Vincent waited for Madame near the castle. Bianca apologizes to Vincent for being late. She had been preparing for a long time, and lost track of time. Vincent tells her not to worry, everything's alright. He's glad she dressed so warmly, since it's really cold today. Bianca agrees, but still she thinks she is overdressed. I assure her that she looks perfect. My madam can't stand the cold, I won't let her get sick because of me again. Anyway, Bianca commands us to move on. Vincent tells Bianca that most of Arno's territory is plains. Their castle is located on the highest hill. To the east is forest, and flowing rivers. Vincent is glad that the Arno land can be developed both agriculturally and forestry. Bianca didn't know much about it, because in her previous life she had no interest in these lands. Vincent had told her about it only once. After Zachary's death in the war, the Count's brother banished Bianca from the land. Vincent then told her that she should go east. If she followed the forest path, she would reach the Blanchfort lands in 10 days. As Bianca walked along the forest path, she thought that she was lucky that the land was so flat. In those days, she hated Arno's land with all her heart. I asked Madame to put on her hood, the wind is quite cold. But now my madam was determined to survive in these lands at any cost. She thinks this piece of land is really wonderful. She can't believe she hasn't noticed such a beautiful place all these years. After Madame saw the territory, we went to the sewing room. There Bianca learned a lot about making clothes and banners. Despite the cold, our outing promised to be interesting. I heard women passing by loudly discussing the Countess. They didn't expect the Countess to be so fat. They felt sorry for Auntie whom she had beaten. I wanted to tell them that Madame was just wearing a lot of clothes, but was actually thin. I was worried that Madame might hear that. Bianca turned all her attention to the beautiful embroidery in front of her. She needs to know who made it, and for how long. The girl standing next to her says that she did it in 4 days, but the embroidery is not finished yet. Bianca wants the girl to come to her tomorrow. After these words, Madame suggests Vincent to go to the next place. Bianca angrily goes ahead, and Vincent asks her to go slower. The girl who was weaving the embroidery doesn't understand what she did wrong. Bianca is sure she can teach such a clever and quick girl. Vincent says that next they are going to the meat store, and the candle store. Bianca is happy to know that there is a candle store in their castle. Vincent shows Madame the place where the meat is salted and stored for the winter. He would like to tell her more about how they get the fat and meat, but Bianca interrupts him. She finds it all fascinating, but she needs to see the candle store. Vincent shows her the way and we go to the candle store. When Bianca lived in a monastery, candles were considered a luxury item there. She wants to see with her own eyes how they are made, and remember it. The man who makes the candles says it's not so hard. The wick is dipped in lard, and then lifted up. If you do this many times, the candle gets thicker. The candle seller gave the candle he made to the Countess. Bianca noticed that this candle smells different from the ones in her room. Vincent explains that the candles in her room are made of beeswax. Such candles don't leave soot, and smell pleasant, but they cost much more. The Lord has ordered beeswax candles to be placed wherever Madame goes. That's why she never saw candles made of lard. Bianca got angry. Does he mean to say that they spend a lot of money on her expensive useless candles, or what? Vincent didn't mean that, it's the Lord's order. Since Vincent was cold to her before, Bianca will try to tease him sometimes. Anyway, she has accomplished all her goals, and can go back. Bianca accidentally tapped her foot on a wooden box, and a voice was heard from there. Gaspar pulled open the lid of the box. In it sat a little boy with a knife in his hands. Gaspar loudly asked the frightened boy who he was, and what he was doing here. After Gaspar picked him up, the man who made candles recognized him as Nicola. The boy was clutching a knife, and blood was dripping from his finger. Bianca assumed that he wanted to attack her, but who could have ordered him to do so? The man asks Gaspar to let the boy go. It's his colleague's son, he's just hiding here and fooling around. The man asks the Countess to forgive the child for his foolish actions. Bianca concludes that the boy couldn't have hurt her with such a small knife, so Gaspar can lower him. She asks me to look at the boy's hand. Vincent asks the man why the kid is hiding here. The candle seller had to say that Nicola was making the candles unusable. Inside the box, Bianca notices a beautifully made candle in the shape of a woman with wings. She doesn't understand why they think this candle is unusable. Butler of Arno, on the contrary, considers this work a waste of candles. The boy explains that he did it for a reason: he was saving God. Last night in a dream, God told him he was locked into this candle. So he just wanted to save God by carving a sculpture from it. Madame asks the man who taught the child sculpting. The candle seller says the boy lives in a poor family. His father has a candle store, and his mother works as a servant. But for some reason, the boy has developed a habit of ruining candles. Vincent reminds Madame that practice is much better than theory. This kid damaged a thing that belongs to Arno, it's no different from stealing. She should punish him, so he won't do it again. The boy is afraid of Madame from the rumors. A few days ago, she hit the maid for reasons unknown to him. He's worried that Madame will hit him too. Bianca tells the child to come to her tomorrow. After these words, our donut leaves the candle store. Vincent asks her to wait. Practice is the best way to learn. Nicola began to cry. He asks his uncle what he should do now. Such a long day has come to an end. Bianca has learned a lot about her land. The next morning, two people whom Madame called stood at the threshold of the castle. Each of them thought that it would be better if Madame had beaten them yesterday. But they were surprised to find themselves in such a situation not alone. I was glad to meet them both. Madame was already waiting for them in the room. While we were walking, Nicola decided to thank me for yesterday. He says the handkerchief I put on his wound hasn't dried yet, but he'll bring it to me soon. I explained to the child that the handkerchief was not mine, but Madame's. She asked me to help him yesterday. Nicola couldn't believe his ears. Madame had taken care of him yesterday. I assured him that Madame would be happy to know that his wound was almost healed. Some maid shoved my shoulder so hard that I fell down. Her gaze was cold and full of disgust. She called me betrayer, and then left. According to rumors, it was Madame who banished Auntie from Arno lands. Auntie had many friends in the castle and beyond. They thought I was a betrayer who snitched on my colleagues. Nicola asked if everything is alright with Big Sister. I tell them not to worry, I'm strong enough not to get hurt. More importantly, Madame is already waiting for them. When we entered the room, Bianca was surprised that they came so early. She praised them for both coming to her first, while both of them admiring her beauty. Madame looked like an angry little mushroom yesterday, but now it was like a different person in front of them. Bianca asks if they know how to keep their mouths shut. The girl says she is. Everyone considers her a quiet person. Bianca is glad to hear that. She must not tell anyone about the design she will show her. Madame will teach her how to make such lace. After that, she has to make them for a week. The girl understands, but she has never seen such lace before. Madame then turned her attention to the boy. She reminded him that for stealing goods, they cut off the hand. But since he was still young, she thought of another punishment. Nicola can't believe his eyes. They're beeswax candles. Bianca explains to him the nature of the punishment. He has to cut something from them, and then show the result to her. Nicola says it doesn't seem like punishment. Why is she giving him such precious things? Honestly, he thought Madame would kick him out of Arno's lands. Bianca says it's simple, she invests in them. She believes they have talent, and can create beautiful things. If she wants to run a business, she needs a lot of time and money. Bianca believes she will succeed before she is banished from the Arno lands as a worthless countess. Lace, beautiful and light clothing made of textile fibers, became very popular in Severang and nearby countries. In time such clothes would become part of high fashion. Everyone knows that the first to produce lace was the Arno family. The woman who taught the seamstresses how to make lace was Countess Bianca de Arno, but when it first started, no one could imagine that Arno would become the center of lace production.